Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! The brush glided smoothly across the eyelid, depositing a shimmering powder that caught the light. Steady hands worked with practiced precision, blending and contouring to create a subtle yet striking effect. In the mirror, brown eyes blinked back, framed by long lashes and a hint of shadow. A contented sigh escaped ruby-tinted lips. The face staring back was both familiar and new. Softer features, a gentle arch to the brows, cheeks touched with a rosy glow. It was a face that felt right, that matched the person within. Fingers ghosted over the silky fabric of the dress hanging nearby. The deep blue material flowed like water, promising to drape elegantly over curves both natural and enhanced. It was a far cry from the stiff suits and scratchy fabrics of the past. "Sophie?" a voice called from the other room. "Are you almost ready? We don't want to be late for brunch." "Just finishing up," came the reply, slightly higher in pitch than it once was. "2 more minutes, I promise." Sophie, formerly Raymond, smoothed her hands over the dress one last time before slipping it on. The fabric settled into place, hugging her figure in all the right ways. She gave a little twirl, watching the skirt flare out around her legs. It had been a long journey to reach this point, the end of a relationship that had felt increasingly stifling. Months of soul-searching and therapy sessions, tentative steps into a world of self-discovery and expression. But with each passing day, each small victory, Sophie felt more and more like her true self. She grabbed her purse and headed for the door, heels clicking confidently on the hardwood floor. Her roommate, Emma, was waiting in the living room, scrolling through her phone. Emma looked up and grinned. "Wow! Look at you! That dress is stunning!" "Thanks," Sophie replied, giving another little twirl. "I wasn't sure about the color at first, but I think it works." "Are you kidding? It's perfect! You're going to turn heads at brunch for sure." Sophie felt a warm glow of pride at the compliment. There had been a time when any attention made her want to shrink away and hide. Now, she found herself looking forward to being seen, truly seen, for who she was. The 2 women headed out, chatting easily as they made their way to their favorite cafe. It was a beautiful spring morning, the air fresh and full of promise. Sophie breathed deeply, savoring the scent of blooming flowers carried on the breeze. At the restaurant, they were quickly shown to a table on the patio. Sophie smoothed her skirt as she sat, still marveling at how natural the motion felt now. She perused the menu, debating between her usual veggie omelet or trying something new. "So," Emma said, peering over her menu, "any exciting plans for the rest of the weekend?" Sophie shrugged. "Not really. I thought I might do some shopping later. I could use a few new tops for work." "Ooh, mind if I tag along? I've been meaning to update my wardrobe too." "Sure, that would be fun. Maybe we could grab dinner after?" As they continued chatting, Sophie found herself reflecting on how different her life was now compared to just a year ago. Back then, weekends had been a blur of Netflix binges and avoiding social interaction. Now, she had a circle of supportive friends and a calendar full of activities she genuinely looked forward to. Their food arrived, and conversation lulled as they dug in. Sophie savored each bite of her French toast, the sweetness of the maple syrup complementing the tart berries perfectly. She found herself paying more attention to flavors and textures these days, as if all her senses had been heightened. "Oh, before I forget..." Emma said between bites. Lisa wanted me to invite you to her birthday party next weekend. It's just going to be a small get-together at her place, very low-key. Sophie hesitated for a moment. While she had grown more comfortable in social settings, the idea of a party still brought a flutter of nerves. Maybe. Who else will be there? Just the usual crowd, plus Lisa's cousin who's visiting from out of town. Come on, it'll be fun. And you know Lisa would love to see you. After a beat, Sophie nodded. Okay, sure. Tell her I'll be there. Emma beamed. Awesome! I'll let her know. As they finished their meal and headed out to shop, Sophie found herself looking forward to the party. It was another step forward, another opportunity to fully embrace her new life. The boutique was busy when they arrived, filled with women browsing racks of colorful clothing. Sophie ran her fingers over soft fabrics, marveling at the variety of styles and patterns. She selected a few blouses to try on, along with a skirt that caught her eye. In the dressing room, Sophie carefully removed her dress and hung it up. She caught sight of herself in the mirror, curves enhanced by forms and shapewear, skin smooth from careful hair removal. It had taken time to become comfortable with her body, but now she felt a sense of pride as she gazed at her reflection. She tried on the first blouse, a flowing chiffon in a soft peach color. The fabric draped elegantly, accentuating her figure without clinging too tightly. Sophie smiled, already imagining how she could style it for work. "How's it going in there?" Emma called from outside. "Find anything good?" Sophie opened the door to show off the blouse. "What do you think of this one?" Emma's eyes lit up. "Oh, that looks amazing on you. The color really brings out your complexion." Encouraged, Sophie tried on the rest of her selections. She ended up purchasing the peach blouse, along with a forest green wrap top and the floral skirt she had picked out. As they left the store, shopping bags in hand, Sophie felt a sense of satisfaction. Each new item in her wardrobe was another affirmation of her identity, another piece of the person she was becoming. "Want to grab a coffee before we head home?" Emma suggested as they passed a cozy-looking cafe. Sophie nodded, and soon they were settled at a small table with steaming mugs in front of them. As she sipped her latte, Sophie found her thoughts drifting to the upcoming party. "I think I might wear that new green top to Lisa's birthday," she mused aloud. Emma nodded approvingly. "That would look great. Are you nervous about the party at all?" Sophie paused, considering the question. "A little," she admitted. "I mean, I know most of the people who will be there, but there's always that moment of uncertainty when I walk into a room, wondering if someone will clock me or say something insensitive." Emma reached across the table to squeeze her hand. "I get that, but you know Lisa would never let anyone make you feel uncomfortable. And honestly, Sophie, you've come so far. You carry yourself with such confidence now. I doubt most people would even guess you're trans unless you told them." Sophie felt a warmth in her chest at her friend's words. It was true that she had gained confidence over the past months. The debilitating dysphoria and anxiety that had once plagued her had faded to a manageable level. She was living authentically, surrounded by people who accepted and supported her. "Thanks, Em," she said softly. "I don't know if I could have made it through this journey without you and the others cheering me on." Emma grinned. "Hey, what are friends for? Now come on, finish that coffee. I want to go home and try on my new clothes." The week leading up to Lisa's party passed quickly. Sophie threw herself into work, grateful for the distraction from her lingering nerves. Her job as a graphic designer allowed her to work remotely most days, which had made her transition easier. She had slowly begun presenting as female full-time, starting with subtle changes to her appearance and gradually becoming more open about her identity. Her co-workers had been surprisingly supportive for the most part. There had been some awkward moments and a few insensitive comments, but overall the experience had been positive. Sophie found that she was more creative and productive now that she wasn't expending so much energy hiding her true self. On the day of the party, Sophie spent extra time getting ready. She carefully applied her makeup, opting for a slightly bolder look than her everyday style. The green wrap top looked perfect, paired with dark skinny jeans and ankle boots. She added some delicate silver jewelry to complete the outfit. Emma whistled appreciatively when Sophie emerged from her room. "Damn, girl, you look hot." Sophie blushed, but smiled at the compliment. "Thanks. Not too much?" "Not at all. You look amazing. Ready to go?" They arrived at Lisa's apartment just as the party was getting into full swing. Music pulsed from speakers, and the rooms were filled with chattering people. Sophie took a deep breath, steeling herself before following Emma inside. Lisa spotted them immediately and rushed over, pulling them both into a hug. "I'm so glad you made it. Sophie, you look gorgeous. Happy birthday," Sophie replied, handing over a gift bag. "I hope you like it." "I'm sure I will. Come on, let me introduce you to some people." As Lisa led her around the room, Sophie felt her nerves begin to fade. Everyone was warm and welcoming, engaging her in easy conversation. She found herself relaxing, laughing at jokes and sharing stories. At one point, she ended up chatting with Lisa's cousin, Mark. He was visiting from out of state and didn't know many people at the party. "So, how do you know Lisa?" he asked, sipping his drink. "We met through a mutual friend about 6 months ago," Sophie explained. "She's been really great, very supportive during some big changes in my life." Mark nodded. "Lisa's always been like that, looking out for people. I'm glad she's found such good friends here." As they continued talking, Sophie found herself enjoying Mark's company. He was easy to talk to, with a dry sense of humor that matched her own. When he asked for her number at the end of the night, she hesitated only briefly before giving it to him. Later, as she and Emma were heading home, her friend nudged her playfully. "So, I saw you talking to Mark for a while. He's cute, right?" Sophie felt her cheeks warm. "He seems nice. We exchanged numbers, but I don't know if anything will come of it." "Well, if you do decide to go out with him, just remember, you don't owe him or anyone else your entire life story right away. Share what you're comfortable with when you're ready." Sophie nodded, grateful for the reminder. Dating as a trans woman came with its own set of challenges and considerations, but for the first time in a long while, she felt open to the possibility of romance. The next morning, Sophie woke to a text from Mark asking if she'd like to grab coffee sometime. She smiled, a flutter of excitement in her stomach as she typed out a reply agreeing to meet later that week. As she went about her day, Sophie found her thoughts returning to the party and her conversation with Mark. It had been so long since she'd felt a genuine connection with someone in that way. Part of her was terrified of opening herself up to potential hurt or rejection. But another part, a stronger part, was eager to embrace this new experience. She thought back to where she had been just a year ago, trapped in a relationship that felt increasingly wrong, unable to articulate why she felt so disconnected from herself and the world around her. The pain of that breakup had been intense, but it had also been the catalyst she needed to finally confront the truth she had been avoiding for so long. The first therapy session had been terrifying. Sitting in that office, hands twisting nervously in her lap, trying to find the words to express feelings she had buried for decades. But as she began to open up, to explore the source of her discontent, a weight started to lift from her shoulders. It was her therapist who first suggested she might be transgender. The word had sent a jolt through Sophie, then still Raymond. It was scary, but it also felt right in a way nothing else ever had. That session marked the beginning of a journey of self-discovery and transformation. The early days of exploration had been both exhilarating and nerve-wracking. Purchasing her first items of feminine clothing, hands shaking as she placed them on the checkout counter. Watching countless makeup tutorials, practicing for hours to achieve a natural look. Finding her voice, quite literally, as she worked with a speech therapist to develop a more feminine tone and speech pattern. There had been setbacks and moments of doubt along the way. Days when dysphoria hit hard, leaving her curled up in bed, unable to face the world. Painful conversations with family members who struggled to understand or accept her truth. But there had also been moments of pure joy. The first time she saw herself fully dressed as Sophie and felt truly at home in her own skin. The day she chose her new name, trying it out and feeling a thrill at how right it sounded. Now, looking back, Sophie marveled at how far she had come. She was living openly as her authentic self, pursuing her passions, and surrounded by a supportive community. The journey wasn't over. In many ways, it was just beginning. But she faced the future with hope and excitement, rather than fear and resignation. As the day of her coffee date with Mark approached, Sophie found herself filled with a mix of anticipation and nerves. She spent extra time choosing her outfit, wanting to look polished but not like she was trying too hard. She settled on a casual dress in a pretty floral print, paired with comfortable flats and a denim jacket. The cafe was busy when she arrived, filled with the chatter of conversation and the hiss of espresso machines. Sophie scanned the room, her heart beating a little faster when she spotted Mark waving from a corner table. "Hi," she said as she approached, smiling shyly. "I hope I didn't keep you waiting." Mark stood to greet her, returning her smile warmly. "Not at all. I just got here myself. You look lovely." They settled into easy conversation as they sipped their drinks, discussing their jobs, hobbies, and favorite local spots. Sophie found herself relaxing, drawn in by Mark's genuine interest and quick wit. As their coffee date stretched into a leisurely lunch, Sophie realized she was facing a dilemma. She was enjoying Mark's company immensely and could easily see herself wanting to pursue things further, but she knew that before that could happen, she would need to have an important conversation. There was never a perfect time to come out as transgender to a potential romantic partner. Too soon, and it might seem like she was dumping a lot of personal information on a virtual stranger. Too late, and it could feel like she had been deceiving them. Sophie had agonized over this issue in the past, but she was determined to handle things differently this time. As their meal wound down, she took a deep breath and met Mark's eyes. "I've really enjoyed spending time with you today," she began, "and I'd like to see you again. But before we go any further, there's something I need to tell you." Mark's expression turned serious, but he nodded encouragingly. "Okay, I'm listening." Sophie steeled herself and continued. "I'm transgender. I transitioned about a year ago. I know that might be a deal breaker for some people, and I understand if it changes things between us. But I wanted to be upfront about it." There was a moment of silence that felt like an eternity. Sophie's heart pounded as she waited for Mark's response. Finally, he spoke. "Thank you for trusting me enough to share that. I appreciate your honesty." He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. "I'll admit, I don't have much personal experience with transgender issues, but I like you, Sophie. I'd like to keep getting to know you, if you're open to that." Sophie felt a wave of relief wash over her. It wasn't an unequivocal acceptance, but it was far from the worst reaction she had feared. "I'd like that too," she said softly. As they left the restaurant, plans made for another date the following week, Sophie felt a sense of lightness. She had taken a risk in being vulnerable, and it had paid off. Whatever happened next, she knew she had been true to herself. The weeks that followed were filled with a whirlwind of activity. Sophie threw herself into her work, tackling challenging projects with renewed energy and creativity. She continued to explore new hobbies and interests, signing up for a pottery class and joining a local book club. Her relationship with Mark progressed slowly but steadily. They went on more dates, each one reinforcing the connection they had felt from the start. Mark asked thoughtful questions about her experiences as a trans woman, always careful to respect her boundaries. Sophie found herself opening up more, sharing both the joys and challenges of her journey. There were still difficult moments, of course, days when dysphoria crept in, leaving her feeling disconnected from her body. Encounters with less accepting individuals that left her shaken and questioning herself. But Sophie had developed a resilience she never knew she possessed. She had tools to cope with the hard times and a support system to lean on when things got tough. As summer turned to fall, Sophie reflected on the incredible changes the past year had brought. She thought about the person she used to be, closed off, unhappy, living a life that felt like a constant performance. Contrast that with who she was now, confident, engaged with the world around her, finally comfortable in her own skin. The journey of self-discovery and transition had not been easy. There had been pain and loss along the way, relationships strained or broken by her decision to live authentically. But there had also been unexpected joys, new connections forged, and a sense of inner peace she had never thought possible. Sophie knew that her journey was far from over. There would always be new challenges to face, new aspects of herself to explore and understand. But for the first time in her life, she felt truly excited about the future. She was no longer just existing, going through the motions of a life that didn't fit. She was living, fully and authentically, embracing all the beauty and complexity of being her true self. As she got ready for a night out with friends, carefully applying her makeup and slipping into a favorite dress, Sophie caught her reflection in the mirror. The woman looking back at her was strong, beautiful, and unashamed. She smiled, a genuine expression of joy and self-acceptance. "Ready to go?" Emma called from the other room. Sophie took one last look in the mirror, smoothing her hands over her dress. "Ready," she replied, her voice strong and clear. She grabbed her purse and headed out, eager to embrace whatever adventures the evening might bring. The night air was crisp as they stepped outside, carrying the first hints of autumn. Sophie breathed deeply, savoring the sense of possibility that seemed to float on the breeze. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew she had the strength and support to face them. This was her life now, vibrant, authentic, and filled with joy. And she wouldn't have it any other way.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!